Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of Season 1 of Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on this cartoon, I would like to give a special shout out to Mark for requesting this review. And if there's another cartoon, TV show, film, or topic that you'd like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. The link to both is in the video description down below, and I will try to get to your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers is one of many shows that I grew up watching when I was a kid. So this was quite the nostalgic trip down memory lane revisiting this show. But I gotta be honest, I definitely liked the show more when I was a kid, but I still had fun with it. It's just not what I would consider to be one of my personal favorites, but it is a show that for the time featured some really great animation that still stands up really well to this day and had a stellar voice cast. And it was just a really good, cool, and fun concept that was, for the most part, well executed for its target audience. Now, what's interesting is Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, it started out as a completely different cartoon with a similar idea in terms of a group of animals going on adventures and rescuing other animals and taking place in a city. Like there's a lot of similarities, but it was still a very different show in terms of the characters and other aspects of the series. It was actually originally called Metro Mice, and it was created by the Rescue Rangers is co-creator in Tad Stones. And so Tad Stones, he came up with this concept called Metro Mice, and there was this leader of the group, of this group of Rescue Rangers, named Kit Colby. And Kit Colby actually had a fedora and a jacket just like Chip would. And there was a gadget-like character. There was a character that was similar to Monterey Jack but had a different name. There was even a chameleon that was a part of the group. And Tad pitched this concept to Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg, who were looking for another cartoon series because they were greenlighting tons of cartoon series because of the runaway success of DuckTales. Like DuckTales in 1987 was completely new ground for Disney. Like they had not done anything like that before, and they were entering into uncharted territory, and the show wound up becoming this absolute insane phenomenon. Like almost overnight, it was just this massive hit for Disney. And so understandably, Disney was like, hey, we want more of that. And so that's why you had Darkwing Duck, that's why you had Tailspin, and that's why you eventually got Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. But it was actually Michael Eisner, of all people, who was responsible for bringing up the idea to bring in Chip and Dale into Metro Mice. And that's how Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers ultimately came to be, because of the suggestion of Michael Eisner. So it's another thing that you can give Michael Eisner some credit for. We wouldn't have Chip and Dale and Rescue Rangers without Michael Eisner, because it was his idea to suggest bringing in those characters into what was originally Metro Mice. And once they changed it to Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, things were off and running, and the show was ready to go. Of course, you needed to have a voice cast, and this voice cast is just really solid. Really great voice cast. I mean, you got Chip, who is voiced by Tress MacNeille, who also voices another character. She voices Gadget, so she's the voice of both Chip and Gadget in this show. Dale is voiced by Corey Burton. Monterey Jack is voiced by Peter Cullen and Jim Cummings. Like at times Peter Cullen would voice him, at other times Jim Cummings would. Uh, Zipper is voiced by Corey Burton. So you have a lot of voice actors and actresses who are doing double duty on this show, which makes their work even more impressive because they're playing multiple different characters. So you've got Peter Cullen, who also voices Officer Kirby and Officer Muldoon. You've got Rob Paulsen and Alan Oppenheimer, who voiced Detective Donald Drake and K9. Plato, Sergeant Spinelli is voiced by Jim Cummings. Jim Cummings voices the villain Fat Cat. I almost said he voices himself as the bad guy, Jim Cummings. No, he voices Fat Cat. He voices Wart. Corey Burton does the voice for Mole. Meps is voiced by Peter Cullen. Snout is voiced by Corey Burton. These are all henchmen of Fat Cat. Professor Norton Nimonul, who was another reoccurring villain in the series, is also voiced by Jim Cummings. Rat Capone is voiced by Jim Cummings. Brian Cummings actually voices a character named Arnold Mousenegger, which is a parody of Schwarzenegger, and Chuck McCann voices Sugar Ray Lizard, and those are henchmen of Rat Capone, and all these different voice actors, they do a really nice job differentiating these different characters. They don't really sound the same. It doesn't sound like, oh, it's just a different version of the same character. They all seem to have their own personality. They all seem to have their own unique voice to them. And yeah, I definitely want to give a lot of props to the voice cast. I will admit, though, I felt, because I grew up watching Tiny Toon Adventures as well, I didn't. And I guess had been so long since I watched Chip and Dale that I forgot that Tress MacNeille, who voiced Babs Bunny, also voiced Gadget, and the two sound pretty much identical. But it's not like she's just voicing the same character, uh, just with, like, you know, a different a breed of animal at some point in the show. She also voices other characters, and so does all of the other voice cast members, which makes sense because that happens a large majority of the time when it comes to these kind of shows. Like, a lot of people were involved; they end up doing a slew of different voices for the series, and can't talk about this show without talking about the theme by Mark Mueller. Now, Mark Mueller also did the theme for DuckTales. So the guy was already on a significant role and was already just coming out with banger after banger when it comes to these cartoon theme songs, and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers is no exception. Like, that song is an instant earworm, just like DuckTales. Jeff Prosciutto, he did the vocals for the Rescue Rangers theme, just like he did the vocals for DuckTales. So the two of them are just a really great duo, and they do equally great work here when it comes to the theme song for Rescue Rangers. And Glenn Dowham, he does a lot of other music that I felt fit the show really well for various different episodes. And there are a multitude of different directors as well who, in my opinion, do some really decent, really effective work when it comes to directing an animated show for kids. And what's interesting about the first season is that the multi-part pilot, which was aired in 5 parts, didn't actually air in season 1. So you don't really get the origin of the Rescue Rangers in season 1. You get that in season 2, which I felt was kind of interesting. You get it in season 2. There was also a 2-hour special called Rescue Rangers to the Rescue, which was all of those parts that were put together into one movie that I believe aired I think sometime after season 1, if I remember correctly, or aired around the same time, because the show wound up being a pretty big hit for the Disney Channel, because it debuted on the Disney Channel. And the first episode that actually aired was Calories Not Included, the second episode. It aired as a special preview. Um, but there were 13 episodes for season 1. And there are definitely ones that I liked more than others. But it started off pretty strong. Episode 1's called Piracy Under the Seas. It's directed by John Kimball and Bob Zamboni, written by Mark Edens. Uh, this one deals with the Rescue Rangers finding a sunken pirate ship, and then they fight these pirate rats, and they also deal with a giant squid. It was a fun introduction to the series. It was a fun episode. I would say I definitely like this one more than some of the other episodes in this season, because the squid stuff was fun. I like the underwater shenanigans, and even though, yeah, it was another one of those things where the villains weren't really villains, which I've always kind of had a problem with, even in these kids shows. I get it, you're trying to set a good message for kids, but I just feel it limits a lot of aspects of storytelling if you're just gonna have the villains not be real villains, and they kind of do that here with the rat pirates. But it was still a fun episode with some good animation. Uh, Episode 2 is one of my favorites of the first season. It's called Calories Not Included. This one deals with a girl who's looking for her kitten, Spunky. The rescue rangers are then on the case trying to find the kitten. It leads to Professor Niminol and his lab. And Niminol has this crazy plan where he's kidnapping cats and he's using them to generate lightning by building up a charge of static electricity with their fur, which I thought was pretty inventive. And I like Niminol as a villain. And there's a lot of fun action in that episode. So yeah, I do enjoy Calories Not Included. Uh, Episode 3 is called Calories Not Included. Just to mention the crew here, like, it's also directed by John Kimball and Bob Zamboni. Um, they direct every episode of season 1, so I'm just gonna mention them one more time here. Um, and probably not mention them again because they direct every other episode. The teleplay is by Bruce Talkington, based on a story by Tad Stones. And yeah, I would say that's one of the better episodes for sure. Episode 3, I like some of the references in this episode, and I'll talk about those pretty soon, but I'm not really big on the episode as a whole. It's called Dale Beside Himself, and it deals with these shape-changing aliens from the planet Fleeblebrox, and they're, I guess, vacationing on Earth. And then one of them named Ditz, you know, when one of the characters is named Ditz, you kind of know what you're in for. This alien named Ditz, he decides to remain behind by tricking Dale into switching places with him, and they're shapeshifters. So Ditz turns into Dale and then takes his place, and then Dale goes into space with the other aliens, and it's this whole thing about, oh, Dale has to find a way back home, and they have to find a way to get the other alien to stop being Dale and then go back to his home planet. And there's no real conflict other than Dale going back home, or oh no, what if the rescue rangers find out about the fake Dale? And the aliens themselves, like the designs aren't really that interesting. And also they're just so annoying. They're irritating when it comes to whatever they're trying to do in terms of comedy. And they just, the way that they sound is irritating. I can't stand those things. They're so annoying. And that's really the biggest thing that holds that episode back and makes it one of my least favorite episodes of season one, is because of these annoying aliens. But speaking of aliens, there's a reference to aliens in the episode where the rescue rangers, they're watching television and you can clearly see someone who is intended to be Ripley, but with a little bit of Rambo in there because she's got like the red bandana on. So I thought that was kind of fun, but I still didn't care for that episode as a whole. Episode 4 I thought was better. It's called Flash the Wonder Dog, and this is where you get the first appearance of Fat Cat as the villain. Fat Cat's honestly my favorite villain in the series. So whenever there's an episode with Fat Cat, for the most part, it tends to be a good one. And this is not an exception. Like this is definitely one of the better episodes. And this deals with this TV star named Flash the Wonder Dog, and Dale is enamored with Flash, and there's a fun bit where I think he's watching TV. Yeah, there's some fun stuff. There's some fun creative stuff in terms of the teleplay by Buzz Dixon and David Wise. Uh, Having fun with the idea of a television star and how the television star's real personality differs significantly from what he's like on TV. And Fat Cat, he comes up with this plan to essentially ruin Flash the Wonder Dog because he wants a Wonder Cat. And so he sets things up to sabotage Flash's career by having his henchmen perform and dress up like Flash and do all these dastardly deeds and pranks and so on. But what happens is instead of replacing him with a cat, they just replace him with a cockatoo named Conrad. And of course, Fat Cat isn't about that. And while all of this is happening, the rescue rangers get involved and they're trying to clear Flash the Wonder Dog's a name. And yeah, it's just it's a fun episode. It's got some good writing in it. Um, I like Flash the Wonder Dog as well. So yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite episodes of season one. The next episode is episode 5. It's called Out to Launch. It's another one that I enjoyed. Uh, this one is written by Mark Edens, and this deals with the Rangers. They go to watch the launch of a space plane, which is definitely intended to be a space shuttle. But unfortunately, Chip and Dale, they get trapped in a spacesuit in orbit, and so then the other Rangers have to try to get them back to Earth. And this features some creative gadgets that Gadget creates in order to rescue Chip and Dale. And there's some genuine tension because Chip and Dale are trapped in space. So yeah, I like that one. Episode 6 is called Kiwi's Big Adventure. This one is written by Julia J. Roberts. This one is pretty bad. I didn't like this one that much. The Rangers, they crashed a Ranger plane somewhere on an island. They wind up having the plane taken away from them by these kiwi birds. They try to get it back, but a lot of the episode is just Dale pretending to have broken his toe to receive attention from Gadget and other people in the crew. And they have to try to get the kiwi birds to give them their plane back. And there's this crocodile that's also there. And one of the main reasons why I didn't care for this episode is another bit of just annoying characters. And this time around, it's not the aliens, it's the kiwi birds. Like, the kiwi birds are just obnoxiously annoying. So Yeah, that's definitely one of the weaker episodes. Um, I think there was also something to do with the treasure with the kiwi birds, or I might be getting that confused with the Tiny Toon treasure episode. I think that's what's happening here. I think I'm getting the two mixed up. Um, but episode 7 is called Adventures in Squirrel Sitting. This one was fine. It was a fun one. You got Fat Cat again as the villain. This one was written by Dev Ross and Tad Stones. This one deals with a statue that was stolen called the Maltese Mouse. It was stolen uh, uh, by Fat Cat. The Rangers get involved, as well as this other squirrel, the squirrel girl, who I believe she has a crush on either it's Chip or Dale. And this is also the episode where Chip and Dale cross dress, which is definitely, one of those common tropes when it comes to cartoons at this time. They cross dress as lounge singers, um, to distract Fat Cat and his men, so the rest of the Rangers can sneak into Fat Cat's um, it's not really a casino, but like sneak into his club so they can get the Maltese Mouse. And this they also are there to try to save Tammy, who has the crush on Chip, and because she went and snuck into the club herself trying to impress Chip but got captured, and that leads to the rescue rangers having to go to the club to rescue her and get the statue. So that was a fun one. Had a good musical number as well. A lot of the musical numbers aren't the best in this show, other than like the main theme. But I like the song that was about Fat Cat. I thought that was a pretty catchy tune. So yeah, I like that episode. Episode 8 is called Pound of the Baskervilles. This one it was written by Eric Lewald, and this one deals with a guy named Macduff, who is one of the Rangers' confidants, one of their human pals, I believe. It enlists the rescue rangers with little help from Sherlock Jones, who's a parody of Sherlock Holmes. And what's funny is though when Chip is talking about Sherlock Jones, there's a lot of Indiana Jones references when it comes to the writing, which makes sense because Chip is basically Indiana Jones, with the fedora and the jacket, um, which I've always found to be just a fun little touch. And I also think it's a fun touch too that Dale is wearing a Hawaiian shirt like he's in Magnum PI, and that's equally fun when you realize that Tom Selleck was originally supposed to be Indiana Jones, but due to scheduling conflicts with Magnum PI, he wasn't able to sign on to Raiders of the Lost Ark to be Indiana Jones. So then he wound up being Magnum PI and was well known for that instead. So it's like one of those rare things where you actually get to see Indiana Jones and Magnum PI team up together, but it's, in this cartoon. But you get a lot of depth for Chip here. You get to know him a little bit more, and that's a reason why I like this episode a decent amount. Is because you get to know Chip more, and I like Chip, and you get to know about his love of Sherlock Jones, and there's some fun little Sherlock Holmes kind of parody elements in this script, and maybe a little bit of Indiana Jones as well, and his whole point is Chip is enlisted with the Rescue Rangers to try to find a will that proves that the old family mansion rightfully belongs to his master Roger, uh, uh, which is the Macduff. Like Macduff, I believe, is a dog. That's who it was. It wasn't a human friend. I got some of those mixed up. My apologies. But yeah, Macduff is actually a dog. Uh, um, who knew the real Sherlock Jones, and they're just trying to prove that the mansion belongs to his master Roger. And the villain is Lord Howie. The villain was kind of weak. I would say that's one of the weaker elements of the episode, but it was still an enjoyable watch. Episode 9 is called Risky Business. This is a pretty bad one. It's written by Linda Wolverton, and this deals with some scientist and rock star wannabe named Erwina Allen, who builds this machine that enables her to control bees. And she's doing it so she can become a rock star. And she sucks. She can't carry a tune. But because she has control of these bees, people can't leave the concert venue. So, and the rescue rangers get involved because the queen bee herself from this hive enlists the rescue rangers to get her hive back. And so the rescue rangers then have to stop Erwina, and I don't like Erwina at all. The one thing that really stood out to me, other than how irritating and awful Erwina is as a character, is that there's like an Iron Maiden parody with this band, this fictional band. I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was Iron something, but I forgot what it was. It wasn't Iron Pigeon or anything, but it was like it was like a an animal name. And so this Iron Maiden parody, that was like one of the few bits of that episode that I got a kick out of. But then everything with Arena and her awful music that's just ear bleedingly bad, and the fact that a good chunk of the episode, the Rescue Rangers is just trapped by Arena, just I wasn't big on it. But I will say I did like the stuff with Zipper. This episode really let Zipper shine, so I will give the episode credit for that. But I didn't like the villain. The queen bee was also annoying. So yeah, it's just not one of my favorites. Another one that I wasn't big on is episode 10 called Three Men and a Booby. Get it? You know, like Three Men and a Baby. This one was written by Eric Lewold. It deals with this egg collector who, looks like he is a living egg, because that's the whole point. Like, he's got an egg head and he's trying to collect the eggs of a booby bird. And the booby bird, I think, is voiced by Tress MacNeille as well. And the Rangers try to help the mother reunite with her baby. And there's some fun stuff with these. I think they're meant to be hawks or some kind of super fast bird of prey. And there's some fun stuff with those characters, which are henchmen of the egg collector, Mr. Dumpty. And there were some moments where Gadget has to think on her feet and create some new gadgets that was fun as well. But I just didn't like Mr. Dumpty. The booby bird was a pain, and it was just at the end of the day, it was just kind of there. But I would say I'd rather watch that than Risky Business or Kiwi's Big Adventure or Dale Beside Himself. But that's not saying a lot. It's still just kind of there. Episode 11 is called The Carpet Snaggers. This actually might be. This actually is my favorite of season 1. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought this was really creative. I thought it was really exciting and fun to watch. This one is written by Somtau Sucharakul, and this is an episode that features Nimanol again, and he is going around stealing from the wealthy by robbing them with flying carpets. And it's just a fun concept. It's well executed. Gadget has to think on her feet again and use her intelligence to outwit Nimanol, and comes up with a gadget to essentially reverse the magnets on the magic carpets and cause problems for Nimanol and ruin his plans. And one of the main reasons why I really like this episode is the magic carpet idea is fun, and it's just a really exciting episode because there's just a lot of action in it, and there's this whole climax that takes place inside this mansion that's floating in the air, and so you have that extra bit of tension where the rescue rangers, oh no, like we're trapped in this mansion that's just floating in the air, and it's getting higher and higher and higher, and it just does a good job raising the stakes, and it's just a fun episode through and through. Episode 12, not so much, called Bearing Up Baby. This one is written by Dev Ross, and this deals with like it's a camping episode. So the Rangers are on a camping trip. They wind up running into this little kid named Jeremy, who's being watched over by this bear named Humphrey the Bear. And there's a lot of misunderstanding where the humans that are there at the campsite think that the bear is a threat, just trying to hurt the kid. But then, there's a lion, which doesn't, I don't think it's meant to be a lion, but it says lion on Wikipedia. I think it's supposed to be a cougar or something, because it doesn't make sense for a lion to be there. But yeah, I believe it's if you heard that, folks, that's just my cat. That's my animal deciding to join the fray. He's a little wound up right now after having dinner. But yeah, there's a cougar, and there's the bear, and the other human campers. They don't like the fact that the bear is there, and so they try to hunt the bear. Some of the rescue rangers wind up being on the bear at one point, and so it's just a lot of zany shenanigans, and it was just okay, I guess. I will say this though, I was really surprised by some of the animation for this. There was a human camper, who is the father of the little boy, and the animation of the mother was pretty surprising for a kid's show. Like, she was wearing not really a lot of clothes, like very revealing outfit, even had like prominent cleavage. I was really kind of surprised by that for a kid's show, I gotta be honest. That that guy's wife was definitely a MILF. That's all I gotta say. Um, the next episode, the final episode of season 1, is episode 13, Parental Discretion Retired. This is another one I enjoyed quite a bit. This one is written by Mark Edens. This is where you get a different character. You get Monty's father, Cheddarhead Charlie. This is the first appearance of him in the series. And you get some more backstory and depth for Monty, because you not only see his father, but you also see his mother later on in the episode. And Cheddar Charlie was a fun character. I like his gung-ho attitude, and it was a nice contrast to the other members of the team, because he's all about, you know, let's just do it. Let's not even think things through. Don't even plan anything. Let's just go for it. And of course, the other Rangers, especially Chip, is like, "What? That's not how we do things." And so there's some good conflict with Cheddarhead and Chip in this episode. And of course, Fat Cat's the villain again, so you can't really go wrong with Fat Cat as the villain. And there's a fun idea too with Cat with Fat Cat. It's not just a cat. He's also fat, and he's a mafioso. But yeah, Fat Cat has this plan where he's using this like hypno machine to hypnotize sturgeons to thinking that they're chickens, so they can lay eggs every day, so that he can collect all this caviar and then sell it. I thought that was a inspired, interesting idea. I will say this though, the writing's a bit off, because none of the animals and none of the seafood that are exposed to this hypno machine, they aren't cured. So I'm like, does it just wear off after a certain point? Because you never see them get cured. So I'm like, so are like half of Fat Cat's gang still thinking that they're dogs, and the sturgeons think they're still chickens, and that one clam at the restaurant, does it still think it's a chicken too? Um, this episode also had some writing in it that, for a kids show, was definitely skirting the line. Like there was a joke about a prawn being drunk on alcohol. And there's like, oh, it's bad seafood. Like it was against. It literally was in a wine glass, and it was drunk. And I was like, okay, that's pretty edgy, pretty surprising for a kids cartoon. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed that one. I would say that's another one of the stronger episodes of season one. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna watch the rest anytime soon. Maybe down the line. I am curious to see the 5-part pilot to see how the Rescue Rangers came to be. There's another episode with a mummy that I want to see that's in season 2 because there's a bit with a mummy that's included in the opening credits for the show, but the mummy wasn't in season 1. But yeah, overall, I liked it. I would say I didn't love it, but I did like it. I did like revisiting the show, and I had fun with it. Even though there were some episodes I didn't care for as much as others, it was pretty consistent when it comes to at least every episode being somewhat watchable. Like even the episodes I didn't really like that much, I wouldn't say they were unwatchable or nearly as terrible overall as some of the really bad episodes of Tiny Toon Adventures season 1, or some of the other cartoons that I've seen. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers season 1. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.